everyone, and welcome to season 2 of Maple's Host a Pro, where we talk with top talents about everything from marketing to business and so much more. Our guest today is Sam Frymer, a B2B marketing leader that particularly enjoys collaborating with technology or SaaS companies. Most recently, he's been a LinkedIn top editor pick that publishes many pieces that unpack marketing, pay transparency, work from home, work from anywhere, and 4-day week topics. His unfair advantage is being an enthusiastic communicator and servant leader. And for the mandatory icebreaker, here are two fun facts. He's never eaten a Taco Bell, and he was one of the original Uber and Lyft drivers in 2013. Sam Frymer, everyone. Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm doing great, Nitzan. Like pizza, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm very happy and excited to have you on today's show. We're going to talk about remote work. We're going to talk about freelancing. We're going to talk about small businesses and how it all kind of comes together. I'm just going to jump right in and ask you, how did you become focused on the topics that you are talking today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And whenever, when I'm on the LinkedIn streets and I'm talking about pay transparency, the open to work banner, remote work, a 4-day week, those topics, I'll give you an example. Pay transparency, I kind of fell into it by accident. I never, for all the young pros out there, I never like set out. It wasn't on my dream board. Like, hey, I'm gonna always talk about pay transparency. I was in a dentist office. I was on the hunt for a new marketing role, and I was like, wow, this would save me save me a lot of time if the company like put the salary right in the job description, right? So I just used my mad copy paste skills. I made it a LinkedIn. That was my entire LinkedIn post. Um, and I woke up the next day and 3.3 million people had viewed it. So I was like, wow, I guess I'm not the only one that feels this way. And ever since then, that was one of the topics that I've just been shouting from the mountaintops every week.
That's that's a big number to wake up to.
Yeah, it was pretty insane.
Wow. All right. Do you think okay, because okay, pay transparency and the open to work banner are kind of the same I think basis. They're talking about employers and employees or marketers or businesses, whatever, being true, being just as they are. They're being transparent. This is my budget. This is what I can pay. And this is me. I'm really looking for a job. I have nothing to be ashamed of, especially not in today's world because everything's gone mad. But I have nothing to be ashamed of. I'm looking for a job. Why are people so ashamed? And why are businesses so afraid to share what they want to pay? Is it from the same place where they don't want to be the sucker that pays too much or that is looking for a job right now? Is it from the same ego kind of place?
Yeah, yeah, you nailed it. There's so much to unpack there. So I will and stop me if I go on like too big of a tangent because this could be like the whole show. Um, so we'll start with why. We're talking about improving the candidate experience, even the recruiter experience. Like they don't want to waste time, like in their money. They want to find the right person, source them, have that person start, and you're off to the next race, right? And in the employee experience, you want to make sure you're paid enough. Um, so this is a branding thing, right? Like I'm a marketer. I care about my personal brand. I care about my employer's brand. And if your employer trying to brand yourself and you're trying to win that top talent, this is one of the ways you do it, right? So if someone chimed in the comments, they're like, so Sam, if it's so obvious, like you save the candidate's time and money, right? You save the company time and money, right? Because you already know the salary bands or the comp expectations are aligned. Why doesn't worldwide, from USA to Europe to the Far East and universally, do this overnight, right? Good question. Um, I think there could be an ego thing. I think there is folks in the camp that want to get the highest talent for the best dollar, right? They consider that the ROI, right? I can hire Nitzan if I can get her for 110K instead of 150K and she has the same productivity, well then I've just made my company 40 extra K, right? Um, the challenge with that is as I've seen it played out is 6 months down the road when you're talking to your colleague or you're on Glassdoor or you're on the streets of LinkedIn or you're listening to a weird bald guy on a Mayple podcast, someone's going to drop insight. Oh, I'm on that same. I do that same work. I make X, instead of Y. And then you go, okay, well, I'm going to update my resume and look for some greener pastures then. So it actually loses the company money in the long run.
I think it's also a matter of, well, if you'll get someone for whatever less that you can, I mean, you'll squeeze the juice, you'll get less juice because they will not be, might not be as productive as if they knew for 100% you want to give them more than than the market value or even what then they would ask. I mean, if someone offers you just a bit more than what you asked, you would say, all right, I'm going to invest here. I'm going to put my 2,000,000% in and not just, what I need to do and all around that.
Yeah, precisely. And one thing I learned about myself, like years ago when I became a dad and I became a parent, you have this whole like new outlook on life, right? When I had a boss that valued me having a life outside of work, you know what that did? It made me want to work harder. I'm serious. It wasn't just like the mission that's promoted so heavily on the wall. I genuinely was like, oh, this person believes in me and it's giving me like enough runway to do things outside of work. I want to crush this campaign. So it's that's an interesting take. Um, I'll share one other tidbit too regarding that point. Um, I always say that when you go out and talk to fellow marketers or other professionals of job functions, 99.99% of us work for money because that means survival, right? And that's okay, But let's be transparent about it. Hey, that like at the end of the day, uh, this is a transactional relationship. We can still have an amazing community and strong bonds. I still talk to folks that I love from jobs ages ago because it's about the people, right? Um, but a company focuses on a bottom line, so it's okay for the employee to do that too, right?
Um, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think it kind of takes me to the next question because Maple is all about the connection between the experts and the businesses and working with freelance people. And sometimes when a business is looking for a freelancer, they're saying, okay, this will cost me less money because I won't have to hire someone full time. I won't have like all around the cost that I have for an ongoing in-house team. And then they kind of realize that it costs maybe something else than what they expected because the expert is an expert for a reason and they're a freelancer because they can do more than one person's work. I mean, they can take more than one project. And I think it kind of scares businesses and it makes them say, well, I'll take the cheapest one. And they go to, a marketplace where they can have someone doing a job for $5 or whatever. And then they don't understand why it doesn't deliver.
Yeah. Funny how that works, right? What's that? There's that old business quote that's like, and I'll tie this back to freelancing and the whole, even back to paid transparency. If you think it's expensive hiring a true pro, try hiring an amateur, right? And I think to your point, like sometimes we're really busy. We're looking at a list of freelancer bids for this project, and we just filter or sort by the lowest number. Okay, this person can do it. And I think, uh, and I'll use myself an example. When I'm in a rush, I forget what it looks like down the pipeline. Like if a true pro is going to do this and in zero revisions, or just produce exactly what you want first go around, and this is just a theoretical. And then the amateur is going to take 3 rounds of revisions. Well, hey, my time's valuable, right? So unless I have all the oodles of buckets of free time, um, I'd rather go with the pro, and going with the parenting theme. Man, free time, energy, and sanity seems in very short supply sometimes, right? So it's okay to pay to pay for what you get.
Also, I think when it comes to like small business owners in particular, is that their time is worth so much money. And even having the extra 1 day, 24 hours, that means for the business, even not for, free life, but for the business, that is a lot. You'll have more time for creative thinking. You'll have more time to develop tech things. I mean, you'll have more time to deal with the actual business than you would have to do than to find the person that you're gonna work with and ping pong over and over by email to get to the right result and then be disappointed with the final result, end of the pipeline. That's like saying it's not what I meant, but I'm gonna run this ad anyway because I paid whatever amount I did. I think that's kind of like the biggest point here for business owners. Just take into consideration it's not only the amount of money that you pay, it's what you pay for. It's the work, it's the time, it's the creatives, it's the deliverables, it's the whole package.
The whole thing, right? And I think exactly, and I think sometimes when we're in a rush or we're overbooked or overscheduled, we only look at a piece of the pie and not what we're really talking about. One of my friends who's a tech leader, he always talks about, hey, if I create a job spec and I want to hire a new person, and I send that over to HR, the first thing that's going to happen is, that sourcer is going to fill up a whole week's worth of phone screens, right? Um, so one way to skip some of those and save time, or just make these conversations way more relevant, is listing the comp info, and then by default through the process, all those conversations that wouldn't work out anyways, instead of burning 1 or 3 calls on them, you can skip those right away. So all those blocks on your calendar are for people that already know the comps line. I like to poke fun when a company puts up a job and lists the pay as competitive. Like that's pretty subjective,
Let's
Nitzan.
test. Let's test you. You're like, I'm gonna apply for this job, even though that's going to ChatGPT. Hey, ChatGPT, can you create a resume that's perfect for this job? Be the perfect candidate and get the number.
Yeah, that's like me, like as a marketer, like a company saying, "Hey, Sam, um, hey, Sam, can you show me examples of campaigns that you've done in the past, or some other copy that you've written, see if you can really do what you're talking about?" And Sam goes, "Don't worry about that portfolio. My experience, it's competitive. Wink, wink." That's crazy, right? That's a crazy scenario, right?
Oh my god. I mean, I think we're all the things that you're talking about. I mean, the paper plate transparency, and you're also talking about work from home or work from anywhere and the 4 days week. Um, I think those are kind of aligned to the fact that we are living. I mean, it's mostly post COVID, but it was there before. But we're living in an era where everything is available everywhere, and the people that are very talented at what they do and know that they are very talented at what they do, they know their worth. They don't want to waste their own time, and they don't want to waste the employer's time. So, um, I'm really wondering how come these four specific topics you're talking about are not just a norm. um, I mean, I'm not talking about the 4 day week. I mean, generally, when speaking to people who work, in tech or other places or for startups, so a lot of employees are kind of starting to understand that it's not about the hours put in the office, but it's about the results that the employer is giving. So it doesn't matter if you work from 9 to 5, or if you work from 10 to 6, or if you're working 2 hours and then taking a 1 hour break and going back to the computer and doing another 2 hours and whatever. Um, but how come it's not a norm? How come it's still something that is being talked about, convinced? We're having this conversation. So obviously it's an interesting topic because it's not the norm. How come?
Yeah. So it and I'll answer that. I'll give you my take, and just to frame this, or give this some context. Um, Sometimes when I'm about to put up a post about remote work, and the mouse hovers over the publish button, I pause because the logic that's going through my mind is, wait, whoa, we're in 2024. Like, why? This seems so obvious, right? Like, why? Like, is it even worthy of a post? Is it even worthy to start a conversation and jump to the thread and talk to other fellow humans in prose about XYZ topic? And I almost have to force myself to click publish because of the past times I've done it. Someone has told me, either in the comments or send me a DM, hey, Sam, like, my company has this RTO, return to office mandate going on, and I don't get it. So that's some of the framework for this. I think, why is this not standard already? I think for modern organizations that are very forward thinking, very progressive, and do many amazing things, I think they do get it. I think um, Airbnb, some of the ones where their leadership teams have come out and say, "Hey, we're remote," and they haven't gone back on that, right? Or when you go to a job posting, it says right in the job posting, 100% remote. They get it. For the rest of us that haven't made it a standard, um, I think legacy practices die hard. And I want to be careful not to spin this like negative, because remember, we're really talking about branding, like employee experience. Like, hey, you want to win top talent? Top talent likes to work everywhere, right? Um, so they want to have freedom, and I think sometimes, maybe it just hasn't clicked for the leadership team. Maybe um, the fact that there's been record productivity and profits, over the past 4 years, for some reason, that's not enough street cred to say, hey, why don't we make this permanent? Um, in two examples, like going with the parenting theme, kids get sick all the time. So if you have remote work, those doctor's appointments are no longer a big deal. Whereas before, you would have to send a message to your boss, hey, I'm going to be out for a little bit, or can I start later or leave earlier? Um, and I'll tell you, Nitzan, as a marketer, my best ideas never come when I'm sitting at my desk. They come during a workout. They come when I'm sipping a cup of coffee, reading a book, going for a walk, talking on the Mayple podcast. That's when they happen. So in that dovetails better into remote work than it does in an office environment. And every brand on the planet needs to know that.
Do you think I mean, do you feel like it's going there, or do you think it's going to be like a power fight for the old versus the new, and kind of, because corporate is corporate. Um, it's kind of like, I don't want to say heavy because it's got this negative um, negative air around it, but it's not from the negative side. It's just from the place that there are thousands of workers and it's like a based company and it's not a small startup. Everyone can come in their flip flops or whatever. Um, do you think corporates can take it to that level of modernization? Let's call it that, and really bring a new employee experience and kind of brand themselves as the place that people want to work and talent want to work in.
Yeah, I definitely think that if you hold my feet to the fire and you're like, well, how long, how long it's going to take for everybody to have a modern employee experience? I wouldn't be able to give you like a good answer. Um, I'll tell you from what I've seen from top talent, in talking to people way above my pay grade, way smarter than me, who demand, like they demand flexibility is the new currency, right? Like they demand this flexibility. Those folks will not apply to roles that don't offer that option. So when the company hears that and goes, "Wait a second, we don't have a remote option. Should we do that?" Then I think the tide starts to turn. The same thing with pay and transparency. Like if no one, like if you're a leader and you post a job and zero applicants applied because you didn't put the salary in the job description, like that almost forces the conversation. Like, hey, it's the tides are turning. I think there it's part carrot and part stick. The carrot is, hey, we want to be a place that Sam wants to work. We want to be a place that treats their freelancers well. You know what I mean? That when people go on to online review sites, they go, oh yeah, like that French Frimers, .com hired these copywriters or these engineers, these sales folks, and they paid them well and gave them a couple bonuses and were really responsive in their communication, didn't ghost them. Um, I think that's the future. I know we're going to talk about the 4-day week as well. But if I could bridge the gap, I would say, kind of in a roundabout way, remember there used to be a 6-day week standard here in the U.S. and then go dial it all the way back to like 1940. Then it became a 5-day week. So if you ask me then, like, hey, could there ever be a 5-day week standard? Would all companies embrace that? Like until that time, maybe it was no, and then it changed, and now we have a 4-day week conversation, and I think we can do the same thing for remote work.
So let's talk a little bit about that, the 4-day. Um, if you're bridging there, I'll just jump off the bridge.
Yeah, don't hold back.
um, because I think, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, so it's a work life balance, obviously. Um, I'm wondering if it's kind of like what we're used to, because I'm thinking about myself as an employee or as a freelancer. Um, if someone would tell me, well, we're just working 4 days a week, you have 3 days that are off. And I would say, what do I do with that time? I mean, I get finish like earlier, take an evening class, have more time with my family, um, do some, self kind of concentrated things that can promote my career, my well-being, whatever. But suddenly when you're talking about days, it's kind of scary even for me, not as an employer, but as an employee. I'm saying, I have an extra day now. What should I do with that? And you're paying me the same? Are you sure? Not, I mean, what's the catch? And I understand that the catch is I'll be way more focused and my time will be much better managed if I know I have 4 days to reach the same goals as I have in 5 days. But something psychologically is kind of,
Yeah, it's a weird feeling, right? And I think some of that's like lifetimes, that's like generations of conditioning at work that's at play there going, no, like this one box is how we're supposed to frame like our week. We're not supposed to have this extra third day in there to do all these good things. Um, so like I mentioned, at least stateside, it's 6 days, it's 5 days, and we've been doing that for 8 decades, saying, hey, it's 5 days. Now we're taking a serious look at four. Over the pond in the UK, they just finished up a study with like a couple hundred companies testing out the 4 day week, and like 90% of them um, will stick with it permanently. And again, I don't want to over market it or overhype it. Like there's obviously some read between the lines. Like each company can do it differently. Some companies, because they'll say like, hey, well, we have, our 24/7, 365 SLA. We need boots on the ground helping out. How are we going to do that with a 4 day week? Well, half the company will take Monday off and half the company will take Friday off. So no matter when you contact them, there will be someone there at the other end, right? So there's little nuances there to work out, but I think that's the future for those companies that test it out. All of them are like, our employees are happier, like our efficiency increases because people are dialed in. They know they're going to be dialed in for their 4 days. Um, and guess what happens when you have happier and healthier employees? Take a wild guess.
You make
Productivity
more
increasing.
money.
Productivity increases, better bottom line, more moolah, more moolah. That's the result of it. Um, so I think that's the future. And to your point, like it's such as it's almost like we get psychological whiplash. Like what am I going to do? We wake up, that alarm clock or no alarm clock goes off Friday. What am I going to do? And what those employees said was, hey, I would have run all my like errands on the weekend. Now I can do them on my day off. And now that weekend is going to be more family time, recharge time. That's my best impersonation, by the way, of family time, recharge time. I don't know how those hands came into play, but you get the idea. Like good things are going to like take off, when you have that extra belted day.
I'm okay. It's starting kind of to, build on me. I'm kind of starting to get the idea behind it. But yeah, I think we've been taught for such a long time that you need to work 5 days a week, and you have like, you have the weekend. That's great. And then you're trying to kind of figure out what you're gonna do if you want to have a life outside your work. And okay, so I'll wake up an hour early. I think that's one of the reasons that the 5 a.m. Club came to life. I mean, people don't really need to wake up at 5 in the morning, or for me, 5 at night. I mean, it's very, very, very early. They need it because they need the extra 2 hours or 1 hour. Depends on if you travel or need to go to work with, have an hour of traffic. Talking about remote work again. So I get now. I think, I think the more we will talk about it, I will find more and more reasons why it's so great. Uh,
Yeah, I'll say yeah, absolutely. And I'll say, regarding the appointments, yeah, folks will stack them. They'll be really into stacking where doctor's appointments, a school meeting, coffee with their friends. Now, since they know in advance they have that day off, they can, in a very organized way, stack them all and do them all in one day. So you actually miss less um, with that. And look, to all this really could go to any person listening to this, but specifically to the business leaders or entrepreneurs that may be on the fence about it. Um, Look, you're doing a solid. You're doing a solid for your employees, and you're making your company more productive, like more effective, right? And I've noticed the theme for like our chat today, like which is short term versus long term. Like it might be more stressful at the beginning, eliminating those 20% of meetings that aren't really doing anything. That's like that takes some self-reflection to go, hey, like the person that scheduled this meeting 6 years ago isn't with the company anymore. Like, do we really need to spend an hour a week like in this meeting, or can we just like jump into Slack and like give some updates and call it good and save the entire crew an hour? We have those types of conversations, you realize you can actually like compress the week. um, it might be more stressful at the beginning, well worth it in the long term though. Well worth it to have salary conversations aligned right from the start. Might cost you, you might pay that person $7,000 more um, in salary, but that's going to save you 70,000 recruiting costs when that person doesn't leave because they're paid well. So all
Make you the double, might make you the 140,000 because you took the
yeah.
right person, you paid them enough, and you gave them enough time. And do you think it applies to small businesses though? To like, an e-commerce business working with trying to find a freelance worker, going to Maple, checking if they can find a talent to work on their, I don't know, email marketing, and they're saying, okay, I'm gonna work 4 days a week. Do you think it applies to like entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people who are working alone, or is it because it might be actually a good tip. Try working just 4 days a week. Have 3 days to yourself and 4 days a week as an entrepreneur and see if it works better.
Yeah, so I know from my own experience, like when I'm a solopreneur, I've noticed when I set my Calendly to say Calendly, don't throw me any hate mail at that. I struggle with it. Friday, like no Friday meetings or something. Even that, like even like if I'm still working, but there's no more meetings on Fridays, like just that little bit more runway. I know throughout the whole week psychologically, hey, like I'm not going to have to stress about being in meetings day to night on Friday, and so I'm gonna wrap up my week strong. So if I'm a entrepreneur running my t-shirt shop and I have 20 people in my whole company and I'm engaging with freelancers every day, and I say Joe or Jane, hey, like nicely done on our email campaigns, our social and our paid ads this week. Um, don't sweat it about like the email responses Friday. We're not going to be here. So I hadn't considered that before. It kind of gives the freelancers, contractors, other partners, other people you're collaborating with, kind of gives them a license in a way to say, okay, I already know Sam's not going to be in the office. I don't have to worry about, even if there's like an email in my inbox, I don't have to worry about that stuff till Monday. That's okay. One less brick in there that has to be thrown out.
That's that could be really cool. I think specifically for small businesses, and for freelancers. I think that's the one thing, because freelancers sometimes they have more than one project, obviously, um, and they're packing more and more projects, and then they reach to a certain amount of project and they say that's enough. And if maybe those projects they knew that they were planned to work 4 days and not 5 days a week, then we'd say, okay, this day that is off for this one, I can focus on this one, and kind of have focus days for each project that they have. Um, I think it's only beneficial for everyone, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I talked to like I'm not a bona fide entrepreneur. I know that because I talked to them on LinkedIn, and like these people are sharp and like super savvy. It have way better satire than I do. So what I'll say to what the way I'll dovetail into that is for all the entrepreneurs listening to this right now, you already know like your company is going to grow. Like you already know you're going to be uber successful. So why not hardwire it into the DNA today while your company is 17 people, before it gets to 170 and 1700 and beyond, hardwiring, hey, we understand all the benefits 4 day week, so this is how we're going to start. So even when we grow, there's never going to have to be like a U-turn where we go 5 days to 4 days. This is literally going to be considered standard. Standard operating procedure with a 4-day week for the win.
Amazing. Um, any final things that you want to say before we wrap up the interview?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm a look. I'm a positive guy, right? So it's sometimes like it's tricky for Sam to log in and say like, hey, like there's a bunch of tech layoffs. Um, so why don't we do each other a solid? Why don't we build a transparent candidate experience, a transparent employee experience, um, a community that supports people having like an open to work banner on LinkedIn. We're all in this together. It's kind of like the graph where or the picture where it shows careers used to be like this, like that was your entire career, and now like it's the squiggly line all over the place. That's okay. Let's build a supportive community. It's human first. It's okay, even if you've been working 5 days a week for 3 decades. It's okay to switch to a four, or even at like you're investing in commercial real estate. Hey, most of your employees might be parents, or they're not today, but they might be 7 years from now. Hey, give them some remote options, right? And all these other, there can be a million other topics related to the modern workplace. Embrace it, and really try to walk in your customer's shoes is what I would leave people with, and that will just do us all a solid, and make the world a better place.
Those are really great words. I love it. Sam, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me on. Absolutely.